I'm sure you and I have seen at least one national flag in our lives. It could be this flag, or this flag, or this, or even that. Could be good, could be outright hideous, from easy to draw to an absolute nightmare to illustrate using a pencil or a pen on paper, or a drawing program or app. Flags can come in any pattern or size, or in Nepal and Ohio's case, shape. National flags are used as an integral symbol of a particular country or nation, hence the name national flags. They're not linguistic flags, which is why they're not a very good way to identify or represent an entire language. Now, obviously, a particular language can be spoken anywhere across the world, whether you're in PewDiePie land or in the nation of GigaChads or even the land of the free and home of the brave, and where nobody even knows what the hell a kilometer even is. In fact, countries can go as far as being really multilingual. You can ask South Africa with its 11 official languages or Bolivia with 37 if you want to confirm yourself. But since a language can be considered a national symbol of a country, the flag of the country, where it is official and to some extent national, is often used to represent it. And it needs to be stopped, in my opinion, because flags are one of the worst, if not the worst, way of representing a language. Take, for example, English, native to the United Kingdom, is the most widely non-natively spoken language in the world. It is also the most common language in several countries, including the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, etc. Since there are so many countries that speak English, you might have to use all their flags to represent the language so it wouldn't be unfair. But that just removes the consistency. People would often use either the British or American flags to represent the whole language, and in some cases, in certain varieties, different flag is used. For example, for Australian English, it makes sense to use the Australian flag. Likewise, it's better to use the British and American flags for British and American English respectively. Or just combine both flags to represent the whole thing. Then there are countless countries where English is official, but not the native or the most widely spoken language. You can consider Nigeria or Ghana to be English-speaking countries, but English is solely spoken as a lingua franca in those countries. If that's the case, how did English reach there in the first place? British colonialism. This is the case with several fellow African and, to some extent, Asian and Oceanian countries. Take, for instance, India. English is official in that country, so we can use the Indian flag to represent the language, but obviously not the whole thing. So we only use the Indian flag for Indian English. Same with Filipino English, where we use the flag of the Philippines, or Malaysian English, where we use the flag of Malaysia. Now let's go beyond English, where things get quite a bit controversial. The Portuguese language is less scattered across the world than English or Spanish are, but is still a significant language, even though the language originated from Portugal. Only as much as 5% of all Portuguese speakers live in that country. The country with disproportionately the largest number of Portuguese speakers is Brazil, located several thousand miles away in South America. There have been debates and controversy whether or not the Brazilian or the Portuguese flag should be used to represent the Portuguese language as a whole, while completely ignoring countries like Angola, Mozambique, Cabo Verde, São Tomé and Príncipe, Guinea-Bissau, and Timor-Leste, all of which speak Portuguese as an official language. Portuguese people can get really mad whenever they see the Brazilian flag being shown to represent the whole language, and I can confirm this since I have asked some of my friends. This is the same as the Mexican flag being used for Spanish, either the language as a whole or the Latin American variety. Even for the Latin American variety of Spanish, it's weird. Countless countries in the world, especially Spain and the Americas, have Spanish as an official language, in addition to Equatorial Guinea and Africa. Within Latin American Spanish, there are different dialects, not to mention the fact that Paraguay speaks Guarani alongside Spanish, Bolivia, as mentioned earlier, has countless official languages including Spanish, and Chile, where Chilean Spanish is Chilean, I guess.
Estaba recontento porque había llegado el 18 tiki tiki ti, cuando iba saliendo de mi casa ya me estaban esperando estos pacos culiaos hijos de la Maldonao, y como andaba re feliz me puse a bailar cueca a lo choro tiki tiki ti taca taca ta teque teque 9 ratatatata.
French isn't so different either. It's not just spoken in France and Canada, although primarily spoken in Quebec and New Brunswick in the latter's case, but also several countries and territories across the world, especially in Africa. Now, usually the French flag would be used to represent the French language, but using Canada's flag instead, unless referring to the Canadian variety of the language, is weird, considering the fact that only certain parts of the country speak French anyway, while most of the country primarily speaks English. The country of Cameroon in Central Africa is the polar opposite, dominated by French, but English is spoken in certain areas. The largest francophone country in the world, if we count the total number of French speakers, is Dr. Congo. So using the logic of the US for English, Brazil for Portuguese, and Mexico for Spanish, we can use the Democratic Republic of the Congo for French. That's where you can see the absurdity and controversy, as well as bias, as it is pretty much based on where the total number of speakers of those languages are, rather than their countries of origin. German, Dutch, and Italian aren't as globally influential and widespread as the previously mentioned four, and are only limited to a handful of countries. You can use the flags of Germany, the Netherlands, and Italy for representing all those languages respectively, but also the Austrian, Surinamese, and Sammarinese flags to avoid bias. In Switzerland's case, the country has not one, or two, or even three, but four official languages. Only in Romanche's case can we solely use the Swiss flag. Belgium, however, is linguistically pretty much divided internally. Dutch, or Flemish if you will, in the north, and French in the south. In addition to German in some parts, Luxembourg speaks German and French, but also has its own language called Luxembourgish. This is where the flag dilemma becomes even worse. Greek and Romanian have two countries each, although in Greek's case, the Greek flag is used, and in Romania's case, the Chadian flag is used. No wait, not Chad. There we go. Oh wait. But Romanian has a problem. The flags of Romania and Moldova look very similar, except Moldova has its emblem in the middle. Still not as bad as Romania and Chad though, which are almost exactly the same thing. Except the Chadian flag is a darker shade and the Gigachads of Chad speak French. In Cyprus, it's not just Greek that's spoken. Turkish is also spoken by the Turks living in the island, especially the largely unrecognized Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which is solely recognized by Turkey. You can use the Northern Cypriot flag as well as the Turkish one to represent the Turkish language, but due to the unrecognized status of Northern Cyprus, the internationally recognized Cypriot flag would be more likely used for both Turkish and Greek, creating further flag dilemma. Or how about the same language having four names? Welcome to the Balkans, aka Hell in Europe, where everyone hates each other and have some of the best wartime bangers of all time. Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, and Montenegrin, because of their mutual intelligibility, are sometimes considered the same language, but due to vast political differences, it's extremely controversial. Sure, we can use the Serbian flag for Serbian and the Croatian flag for Croatian, but what about Serbo-Croatian? The Yugoslav flag? Serbia and Croatia fused together? And besides, how the hell do you tell all these languages apart anyway? Well, the writing systems, you say. Croatian is always written using the Latin alphabet, while Serbian, Bosnian, and Montenegrin all use Cyrillic, but also Latin, which makes it almost pointless to tell them apart by text anyway. It's a different story with Hindi and Urdu in Asia, however. Both Hindi and Urdu are grammatically identical and the vast majority of their vocabulary is the same. Although Hindi is always written using the Devanagari script and utilizes more Sanskritized words in its standard form, while Urdu is always written using the Arabic alphabet and is more likely to use words derived from Persian and Arabic. In this case, it seems simple. India for Hindi and Pakistan for Urdu. End of story. Except India has more native Urdu speakers than Pakistan, where it is only used as a lingua franca. In fact, Urdu is only spoken natively by 8% of Pakistan's population. In contrast, the vast majority speak Punjabi, Pashto, Saraiki, Sindhi, Baloch, Brahui, Balti, Hindko, and many more as native languages. In India's case, countless languages are spoken in the country, same as Pakistan, although Hindi is still the most widely spoken language. Other than that, there's also Konkani, Marathi, Manipuri, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Odia, Assamese, etc. And then the dilemma starts when Punjabi, Bengali, Tamil, Kashmiri, and Nepali kick the door open. Let's start with Punjabi, which is commonly associated with India, although most Punjabis actually live in Pakistan. In fact, both India and Pakistan have two subdivisions, both named Punjab. The division only exists in religious lines, as well as a writing system. Virtually all native languages in Pakistan use the Arabic Abjad, while India has tons of Abughidas. Punjabi is written using the Gurmukhi writing system in the Indian side of Punjab. Kashmir is also complicated as Kashmir itself is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan. But what if both countries use the same writing system? That's what we're talking about Bengali, which happens to be my native tongue as, if you didn't know or you're new in my channel, Bangladeshi. Bengali is the sole official and national language of Bangladesh, although English is quite influential and common there, working the same way as French in Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco, and Russian in several post-Soviet countries. For Bengali, people would most likely use the Bangladeshi flag to represent it, although it meets with a bit of controversy, as Bengali is also spoken in parts of India, especially the states of West Bengal and Tripura. The language is sometimes solely represented using the Indian flag, as they claim it is an Indian language. The term Indian language can mean differently depending on the context or how people use them. In my case, I use the term Indian language to refer to languages primarily only spoken in India, while for countries that are spoken primarily in India and another country, I prefer using South Asian language instead. Since Indian states do not have state flags besides Jammu and Kashmir, which is no longer a state after 2019, we'll just have to use both the flags of Bangladesh and India to represent the Bengali language. Same with Punjabi, where we use the Indian flag and the flag of Pakistani Punjab, since Pakistani provinces actually have flags of their own. In that case, we can also use the flag of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province as well as the flag of Afghanistan to represent the Pashto language. Although using the Indian flag for Punjabi is kinda tricky, especially with the ongoing Khalistan movement, demanding an independent state for the Sikhs in the Punjab region. In Nepalese case, we just use the flags of Nepal and India. Dilemma solved. But what about Tamil? It's not just spoken in India, but also Sri Lanka and Singapore, both of which have Tamil as an official language. Despite this, the Tamils have no sovereign nation state of their own, just like the Punjabis, and in Sri Lanka's case, it's complicated. Although Tamil is an official language there alongside the predominant Sinhala, things weren't always this way. At one point in 1956, the Sinhala Only Act was passed, making Sinhala the sole official language of Sri Lanka, at the time known as Ceylon, only changing its name in 1972 when it became a republic. This was met with severe controversy from the Tamils, as well as the Tamil-speaking religiously Muslim Sri Lankan Moors, both of which form around 20% of the country's population. The systematic discrimination against Tamils caused a call for an independent Tamil state, which required the split of Sri Lanka into two countries, something similar to the Hispaniola island of the Caribbean, with Haiti to the west and the Dominican Republic facing the east. This resulted in the 3-decade-long Sri Lankan Civil War, lasting until 2009. Tamil would later become one of the official languages of Sri Lanka, but Sinhala nationalism still resisted after the war. This time, the Muslims were the predominant target. The Buddhist extremist, I'm not joking, the Buddhist extremist Bodhibala Sena has led discriminatory campaigns against the Muslims of Sri Lanka, accusing them of wanting to replace Buddhism as the country's predominant religious affiliation. They also apparently wanted to work with Myanmar's 969 movement, which was accused of catalyzing the Rohingya genocide there. This caused riots in 2013, 2014, 2018, and 2019, with the latter mainly caused by the church bombings in the country done by ISIS. The Christians were also often targeted by Buddhist nationalism. But hold on, this can get another video. We're talking about flags and languages over here. Singapore is a multilingual country, where English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil are official, as the country itself is multi-ethnic anyways. I can confirm this as I visited Singapore myself and seen people of multiple ethnic backgrounds, especially the Han Chinese, Malays, and South Indians, of which the latter is primarily of Tamil descent. So, which flag should we use for Tamil? India? Sri Lanka? Singapore? Or what about this flag? Who knows? This one's super controversial, so I'll have to pass that. Now that got out of the way, let's take a look at Chinese and Arabic. There is not a single language solely called Chinese, but what is commonly referred to as Chinese is actually Mandarin. Putonghua, basically Mandarin in Mandarin. The Mandarin orange is actually called Zhi, so don't go out calling the orange Putonghua as well, or the language Jiyu or something like that. People are just gonna look at you funny if you actually do this in China. Mandarin is official in the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China. The latter is commonly called Taiwan, named after the main territory, which is the island of Taiwan. It's hard to decide which flag to use, but if you ask these countries, you could use the Taiwanese flag. But this will piss off the PRC, so you use their flag, I guess? You can also use their flag to represent other Chinese languages, but for Cantonese, the flag of Hong Kong is commonly used, although it is technically not a country but feels like one. For the Chinese languages spoken in Taiwan, I guess you use the Taiwanese flag? For Ichiko Kurosaki's favorite subject and the language of anime and the most futuristic country on earth, there is not much of an argument. But for the language of K-pop and K-dramas, and their supreme leader Kim Jong-un and his glorious homeland, it's kinda complicated. Both North and South Korea speak different versions of Korean, which is to be expected due to vast political and cultural divisions. Most people would tend to use the South Korean flag to represent the entire Korean language, but I'd suggest both North and South fuse into one, or how about the flag of United Korea? And oh yeah, we're supposed to talk about Arabic. To be honest, it deserves a whole new video because there are like tons of Arabic dialects spoken across North Africa and the Middle East. They're also vastly unintelligible, meaning if you take a Moroccan speaker to, per se, Oman, they'll hardly understand what the locals are saying, despite speaking quote-unquote the same language. This is to be expected as not only are both countries far away from each other, but also the fact that when Arabs conquered a whole swath of land during the early stages of the spread of Islam, they even brought the language to the rest of the Middle East and North Africa. But since they're separated from one another, the dialects emerged in separate ways and mostly influenced by different Semitic languages. For example, the Arabic dialects in Maghreb countries like Morocco and Algeria are influenced by Berber languages. Egypt is currently the most populous Arabic-speaking country, also hosting the largest Arab population, obviously. But the original language mainly developed in the Arabian Peninsula, which is controlled by Saudi Arabia and a few other countries. For modern Standard Arabic, though, it'll make no sense to use either the Saudi Arabian or Egyptian flags. So how about the flag of the Arab League? Or maybe a green flag with whatever Arabic letter your mind could think of slapped on it? Now let's move on to the Tsardom of Putin with Russian. Russian colonialism and later the Soviet era made Russian a common lingua franca across the Baltics, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. Russia, obviously, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan all have Russian as their official language, although in the latter four it coexists with the country's native languages as official. In Belarus, however, Russian is more dominant than Belarusian is. After Alexander Lukashenko became president in 1994, Russian became more and more prominent in the country, while Belarusian, the country's native language, is kind of dying. This is just sad. Nonetheless, for the Russian language, which flag should we use? Russia, maybe? Or how about the white-blue-white flag that opposes the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Nah, we need a national flag here. Just put Russia here for now. For the other four, though, they're better for their native languages. For languages like Thai, Burmese, Khmer, Vietnamese, Filipino, Czech, Slovak, Irish, Norwegian, Finnish, Armenian, Polish, Danish, Indonesian, etc., I'm sure almost everyone can agree without invoking way too much controversy. But for languages such as Swedish and Azerbaijani, it's complicated. There are Swedes in Finland, especially in the autonomous region of Åland, not a land. So we can't just use Sweden's flag to represent the language. And in Azerbaijani's case, even though it's the official language of Azerbaijan and is commonly associated with the country with the largest Azeri population happens to be Iran. Since Iran's provinces don't have their own flags, we may have to use the flag of the Southern Azerbaijan National Awakening Movement Party for the Iranian variety of Azerbaijani. But then again, it's neither a national nor a subdivisional flag, so maybe not. Speaking of Iran, there's mass controversy regarding the country's flag. The flag of the modern-day Islamic Republic of Iran was adopted in 1980, a year after the Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the monarchy led by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and was replaced with a theocracy under Ayatollah Khomeini. Monarchists opposing the Islamic Republic reject the existence of the current Iranian flag and prefer using the old monarchist flag instead, even to represent the Persian language, which is the official language of Iran. And then there's Hebrew, the official language of Israel. The whole country of Israel itself is extremely controversial, with many rejecting the country's existence because of the Israel-Palestine issue, especially with the ongoing war, hiking tensions between pro-Israel and pro-Palestine people and groups around the world. And oh yeah, for Arabic you can actually use the Palestinian flag, but it's still tricky as some people don't even consider Palestine to be a country. It's still better to use the Palestinian flag for the Palestinian variety of Arabic though, Or you could also use it to represent all of the Levantine variety of Arabic as well. Although you might still have to include Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan as well. Back to the multilingual nations. For regional Indonesian languages such as Javanese, Acehnese, Balinese, etc., we use the Indonesian flag, or the seals of their provinces just in case to avoid controversy. For federal states like Ethiopia, it's possible to just use regional flags, although in Somali's case, people would more likely use the Somalian flag. For ethnic groups with languages without sovereign nation states of their own, we might have to use either subdivisional flags or ethnic representative flags. And finally, conlangs. Nothing to say about them. They have their own flags. Could be unofficial, could be official. Well, at least they still have flags. In conclusion, using flags to represent languages is extremely complicated, as languages do not have flags of their own, except for conlangs such as Esperanto and Volapük. We tend to use country flags or subdivisional flags. After all, you can't please everyone, even if you try your best to, but you definitely shouldn't exclude or offend anyone. Maybe we should create flags for major languages so we don't have to rely on country flags anymore. It may or may not fix this problem, but it'll make things better. That's all for this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys when I have the opportunity to do so. Peace.